We've been a part of Enagic as a customer since May of 2008. I started building the business in March of 2013, and we've been building things online since 2017. So 2016, 2017, and all of these systems and all of these platforms and all of these communities have duplicated and expanded and done incredible things. And I'm so proud of all of you guys who've taken that initiative and basically solved your own problems of like, we don't have this, so let's go build it. Like, we don't have that, let's go create it. I think that's really, really amazing. And I take my hat off to you, like massive round of applause. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Diamond Life Mentor Podcast with your host, Balazs W Kardos. And I'm super excited for today's episode. This is episode number 80. And it's a special episode to me. And I decided that I wanted to do something a little bit different today and actually share the history of the global prosperity movement. We are just about to launch our brand new custom community that we have been working on all of 2024. We're super excited to be releasing this to the GPM family. And the next episode will actually be all about the features, the vision, what we're trying to create, and what's in store for you, and actually be sending out the official invitation link to your email inside of our Facebook groups and giving you the specific steps on how you can get started. So stay tuned for that. We'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But I think that whenever you're a part of something that's bigger than yourself, that has been around for over a decade, it could be really inspiring to see all the things that have unfolded, all the challenges, all the adversities, the ups and downs, and how the pieces came together, right? With any massive vision that you have, that I have, that anybody has, it gets created in these steps, in these building blocks. And I think like a lot of the times when you just get started now, or maybe you literally are just getting started on your journey with the global prosperity movement, partnered up with Enagic, you may be wondering, how did we get to this point? So I want to give you a little backstory, a little history, and I'm not going to spend too much time on my personal details, even though it is a really big piece of what led us to the creation of the global prosperity movement in 2013. But I'll quickly summarize a little bit of the backstory that I feel that this movement and me leading from the front and starting it in the beginning and founding it very much was written in the stars as part of my purpose, as part of my destiny, as part of the reason why I'm here, as part of humanity at this particular time in history. And all these little synchronicities led us ultimately to find Enagic. And my backstory is essentially that my parents immigrated from Hungary with 2 suitcases, couldn't speak English, and all they had was a dream to start a better life for their family, leaving Eastern Europe in Hungary, where I was born. So that led us to Canada. We grew up with a lot of money and financial and lack of quality time issues. My parents ended up getting divorced when I was 11. And so I created this love-hate relationship with money. And I didn't understand how wealthy people had freedom and how they were able to travel and spend time with their family. So there was a lot of like gaps in the knowledge of how people were actually successful, right? Like the way that I perceived it and the way that it actually was very, very different. But at the same time, I was also suffering from health issues. And as a kid, I was very susceptible to stomach bugs and stomach flus, and my stomach was like the weakest link in my immune system with my digestion and so forth. And so I suffered with chronic pain, discomfort, couldn't go to the bathroom properly. I was bloated. I had acid reflux. I had gas. I had all of those stomach-related issues. I had them, and I was sensitive to things, and I'd get these really crazy gas cramps. And eventually it led to my gallbladder being removed after a few different specialists all suggested that that was the solution. So up until this point in my life, my parents, they just kind of believed in the Western medical system, the doctors, the hospitals, and so forth, and just didn't have a reason to doubt that they didn't have the knowledge or the experience or our best interests when it came to these types of problems. Now, once again, I'm not throwing the entire medical system under the bus, because they do serve a very important role in society, and I'm super grateful for that role that they play. But when it comes to our holistic health, when it comes to preventative health, when it comes to finding out the root causes of different issues that we might be experiencing, they're not necessarily trained, educated, and taught to do that, and not paid to do that, really. So anyways, after my gallbladder was removed, my mom especially got really upset that all my symptoms came back, and I continued to suffer for about 6 or 7 more years after the surgery. And my father also around this time was fighting a battle with prostate cancer. And he had a silent battle. He didn't really share too much of what was going on with us. He put on this front that he was strong, that he had this positive outlook on things, which is amazing. But the severity of his actual condition and his decline in his health was a bit of a mystery to us, until I actually found my father passed away at his home by himself, which was the hardest thing that I've ever gone through, and the most traumatic and the most intense feeling of how life is so fragile, and you sometimes take people for granted, and they could literally be gone in a split second, and you're never really fully ready or prepared for that. And so I was 21 years old when my dad passed away. I went into some serious depression, denial, all of those typical stages of grief. Of course, I experienced them, and I was pretty pissed. Like, I was mad. I was mad at everybody. You know, I was mad at that cancer was a thing. I was mad at the medical system for not helping him stay alive. I was a victim. I was blaming everything. I was blaming myself. I carried a lot of guilt, a lot of shame that I didn't do more, that I could have been there for him. I could have been by his side. And I really struggled with this for a long time. So not only was I depressed because my father passed away, but my health was in a seriously bad place. And so that happened in September of 2007. From September 2007 until May of 2008 were like the darkest months of my life, my rock bottom. I was depressed. I was sleeping in. I had no desire for anything. I just wanted to sleep, smoke dope, take my mind off stuff. And it was just not a good place. And during this time, my mom had discovered Kangen water through some research that she was doing. And it was around early May of 2008 that she went to a water demo. She saw the full presentation back then, which was very basic compared to the knowledge and science and presentations and webinars and web classes and all these things that we have available today. It was very different back then. It was a very basic PowerPoint presentation, but it got the points across. From there, we couldn't afford the machine at the time. My mom was a single parent of 2 kids. She was working 3 jobs. She was making a little bit over $3,000 per month, and all of that money was accounted for. There was nothing left over. But we're so grateful for the compassionate message that Enagic has, because it's about, sharing the water with those in need who are suffering from some health issues or conditions or whatnot, and you can give away free samples from your machine, and it costs you pennies, basically the cost of your tap water to do that. So the person that my mom found online basically told us he can't make us any promises or guarantees, but he's happy to share the water with us for free. And if it helps us, then we can discuss like how we can get a machine and payment plans and different things like this. So my mom brought the water home. I was a massive skeptic. I didn't really believe in that water would help me after we had tried so many different things. Anyways, long story short, a couple of weeks later, it turns out that the water actually was making a massive impact, and I was feeling better. I was going to the bathroom regularly, and a lot of those symptoms that I was just living with for so many years actually went away. And this isn't a health claim. This isn't a promise or guarantee that it will happen for you in the same way it happened for me. There's a lot of variables that we don't have time to get into that played a factor in my results. However, because our bodies are 70% water, this was the missing piece of the puzzle for me in my journey to uncover what was going on with this pain and this discomfort that I had. So after that, excuse me, after that, we got very curious if we could share the water with other people and if they would have similar results as well. So we started sharing the water, and they started to have miraculous testimonials and stuff also. So my belief and our family's belief started to grow and grow and grow. And eventually it got to a place of bulletproof certainty and belief where no one and nothing in the world online, the haters, the trolls, the skeptics, whatever you want to call them, none of them could take away our belief in what this company stands for, what this product stands for, because of our firsthand experience and also our secondhand experience with the people we shared it with. So we just knew that we found something very special. And I remember because of the state that I was in, I didn't have a job, I was grieving the loss of my dad, the health transformation was pretty much the only positive thing that started to happen in my life. I remember hanging out with some of my buddies, and Bobby Pariyar was actually one of those people, and another guy by the name of Pete. He was a close friend of mine as well. We were all hanging out, and I remember us just talking about how important this product was, how special this technology was, and that humanity and the world needed to find out about this, and that we could be the ones that spread it across the whole planet, and that we could make this global impact. And so I remember dreaming about this back in 2008 and kind of planting the seeds and having this massive vision and having no idea how we would ever be able to do that. None of us had a business background. None of us knew anything about marketing or sales or nothing at this point. All we knew is we believed in this product, it made a massive difference in our health, and that we wanted to share it with the world. Now, after this, when we attempted to start sharing it with the world and talking with people and asking them to try the water and trying our best to educate people, we got it shot down bad. You know, we heard all the most negative things. We heard it was snake oil. We heard it was a placebo. We heard that we were scammed. We heard that it was a pyramid scheme. We heard that it was water is just water, and that we live in Vancouver and it's one of the best places in the world for water and you can just drink it out of the tap. And literally any objection or any hater or any negativity that you have run into or will run into in the future, I ran into all of that myself back in 2008. Now, mind you, the general population, the general consciousness around health and wellness and what we put in our bodies and all of that, it was a lot different than it is today, right? We have grown so much in the past 16, 17 years that generally people have a better idea of what to avoid, what's good for you, what's not good for you, what's healthy, what's not healthy. But back then, the knowledge was much more reserved to a smaller like niche in the marketplace that was very considered to be like taboo and weirdos and hippies and this kind of stuff, right? So the reason I'm sharing this with you is because for 5 years, this idea, these seeds that were planted, they lay dormant. Nothing happened, but they were planted. And the way that I believe manifestation works and following and stepping into your purpose and your destiny is that often we take these detours, we take these delays. We have to have certain character building experiences to prepare us for what we're really called towards in the bigger, grander picture of our lives. And in my particular case, what I now understand really clearly many years later is that I wasn't capable of carrying out this massive vision based on my level of knowledge, experience, skill set, mindset, character, my ability to handle stress and resistance and negativity. I was basically just this unprepared, untrained, ambitious young kid who had this massive vision, but it's like so many pieces had to still come together. And in my particular case, the path that I was led on is that I stumbled across door-to-door straight commission sales, selling for a telecom company. And at the time, I was really just trying to make enough income to not feel so strapped on money and have debt collectors calling me and being behind on my bills and completely ruining my credit in my teenage years and stuff like this, just mismanaging credit cards. I got like, thousands of dollars in credit cards, and then I spent it on dumb stuff. Then I couldn't pay it off. Then I racked up interest and my credit got shot. And I just didn't have any financial education, financial literacy at all. So I made a lot of mistakes. And so when I started the door-to-door journey, it was the street smarts business school that I needed to prepare me to be successful with Enagic and to carry out this vision that I didn't even know what it was called yet. So fast forward to 2013, and now I am making multiple six figures in income from my door-to-door career. I'm now running offices. I have managed multiple locations. I'm training new people on how to be effective at door-to-door sales and so forth. And I started to get serious with my then girlfriend, Margaret, who's now my wife and mother of my kids, and she's the best. But I started to kind of future pace my life and ask myself, okay, if I continue on this same trajectory and I stay in this career and I keep doing door to door and I keep expanding and I keep building these offices, what type of lifestyle is it going to lead me to, right? What type of schedule is it going to lead me to? What kind of income is it going to lead me to? So I started to actually go 5, 10, 15 years in the future and ask myself, if I just carry down this road, where will I end up? And I didn't like what I was seeing. And I looked around me at the people that did what I did in the same career path, but they were 10, 20, 30 years older than me. What was their lifestyle like? Were they in shape? Were they happy? Were they fulfilled? Were they living with freedom? Were they traveling? Were they living life to the fullest? And no. At the very best, they were making a few $100,000 a year. And that wasn't even exciting to me, because I knew that I could grow way past that level of income, but the lifestyle that came with it was a lot more important to me. So around this time, I started asking questions, and I got involved in a couple side hustles, a couple side low-ticket network marketing businesses, because I was trying to tap into this idea of a leveraged business model, right? Of actually having a global sales force where I could earn a small percentage off of their sales and build a similar idea to what I did with door-to-door, but I actually wanted to do it in a bigger way where I wasn't restricted just to Western Canada and I wasn't only selling telecom, internet, and TV services. Like, I wanted to really, truly change people's lives in a massive, big way. So it led me to this like self-discovery process of asking myself what I wanted, what I didn't want, creating boundaries, and really just asking myself tough questions. And around this time, I realized that I love the idea of the network marketing business model, because I love training people. I love changing people's lives. I love the network effect. I love it how, we're 6 degrees of separation from anybody on the planet. Social media was starting to really boom around this time as well. Like, I could see the writing on the wall that social media was going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and that online was going to connect us, and so on. So the reason why I'm sharing this is because I had this inner knowing, this nudge, like, Balazs, you got to make a change. You got to take a leap of faith. You got to do something differently. And in February of 2013, all of these signs very quickly started to show up in my life that was basically the equivalent of a spiritual hello from God or from the universe being like, wake up, here's another sign, here's another clue. Don't you get it, man? You know what I mean? That's kind of what it felt like. And it was a combination of a couple of private meetings that I had that kind of pointed me back towards Enagic, a conversation with my brother David, who also basically was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, this company Enagic changed your life, this water changed your life, and here you are, messing around with these low ticket companies that you don't really even like believe in as much as the water. And the only reason these products even taste good and are effective is because you're mixing them with Kangen water, but you're not selling Kangen water to other people, so their product doesn't taste as good. And it was just like a lot of light bulb moments. And ultimately what it came down to, the big epiphany moment, one of them anyways, was this realization around my own self-belief and what I thought I was worthy of. And a lot of people listening right now are going to relate to this and probably struggle with this as well, unknowingly, deep down, is this idea of like, who am I to be able to sell something for thousands of dollars when the economy is bad, when people are struggling financially, when they have debt and credit card debt. So there's a level of feeling guilty for trying to sell something of this amount of money without recognizing that the value that this product has far outweighs the investment. And until you wrap your head around the fact that you are a messenger, you have a powerful solution, you can give people this golden goose for their health, for like the rest of their lives, for their whole family, but also this incredibly powerful business model that comes with it. Until you basically unlock this self-worth that you can do this and that you are a life changer and that you are a professional problem solver with this company, you won't be able to sell units. You won't be able to duplicate. You won't be able to build a team. So for me, because of the success that I created in the door-to-door career that I had, I was able to break down this limiting belief and realize, wait a second, if I change someone's life, their health, their freedom, their lifestyle, their business, their income, their quality time with their kids, if I'm responsible for opening that door for somebody, I deserve to sell this product, but not just sell the product in terms of the price, but I deserve the commissions and then also the long-term bonuses that are attached to this person's success. It's basically a royalty that you get paid on the impact that you have on someone's life. I'm going to say that again. You get a royalty based on the impact that you have on someone's life. So if I sell you a water product, I get a commission, and maybe that's it. So it's a fair exchange. You get this value for your health, and I get this high ticket commission one time. But if I continue to mentor you, coach you, support you, answer your questions, be there for you, guide you, open up these communities for you, or offer you this training or this step-by-step platform or this way to market the business or whatever it is, and I help you grow and become this higher version of yourself, I get a royalty based on the success that you create in the future and the lives that you also impact. And in my humble personal opinion, I believe this is the greatest way to do business. I believe that if you change someone's life and they go on to make tens of millions of dollars, 20 years from now or something like that, then you should get a very, very, very small percentage of that revenue paid back into your pocket, as well as basically a thank you royalty. And so the point that I'm saying is I recognize that I was in the wrong company or wrong companies, but I was in the right industry. And so I made this transition after 5 years of not selling Enagic, not even trying to sell Enagic. I had 2 sales that I had right in the early beginning to my 2 close friends. And then all these signs happen. And this is in 2013. And I said, you know what? I called my mom, who was so supportive of me for all those years and never tried to pressure me to sell Enagic, and she supported me in other things that I was doing. I called her and I said, Mom, I'm ready to build this business. I see the big vision. I'm going to carry out this global prosperity movement vision, and I'm going all the way to the top in Enagic, and I'm so excited to get started. And my official start date, where I draw a line in the sand and make it happen, is on March 1st, 2013. So at this point, I get started. There was another gentleman that we initially found out about the water from. And I remember him telling me a few times throughout that 5 years where I wasn't doing the business, but I bumped into him at events. I supported my mom. I checked out events a couple of times. And every time I saw him, he always told me like that I was someone special, that I had the potential to be a top leader in this company, and just kind of really like pump my tires up to make me feel like I could do big things. And I was like, yeah, thanks. But like, I'm not ready. Like, this isn't the right time. I'm focused on my door-to-door career, whatever. And when I made this decision to start on March 1st, 2013, I remembered a couple of those things that he said. So I ended up calling him up and saying, look, I'm not one of these people that you need to babysit, that you need to like motivate or try to take action in their business. Like, I don't need that. I'm going to just go and make this happen for my own reasons. Like, I'm a self-led, self-motivated leader that's going to take massive action. And when I run into obstacles, when I run into challenges, I'll ask for some support if I need it. But the main thing that I needed a bulletproof, powerful business opportunity presentation, because I didn't have a PowerPoint or slides or a video. I didn't really have any tools. So I asked him for that. He refused to give it to me, which is very weird. To this day, it's the weirdest thing ever. But anyways, I'm not going to get into that. But it was just kind of like, oh, so for all these years, I thought this person was waiting to help me. And then when I finally needed the help, he basically refused to give me the one thing that I felt at the time that I needed to basically get my business to start making sales and so on. So now I was basically left without a supportive upline, aside from my mother, but not someone who could really teach me the ins and outs, the deeper compensation plan and strategy and things like this. So now I'm solo. I'm like, all right, well, what am I going to do? So I just kept taking action. I kept learning as I went. I watched a lot of YouTube videos on how to do the Kangen water demo and stuff like this. And about 4 months in, I was already a 4A. So I hit 4A in my first month. So I was a 4A at this time, and I was probably month 3 or 4. I went on Facebook and I saw an advertisement for an Enagic sponsored event that was being put on by a top leader down in California, in Anaheim. And I remember seeing it being like, I need to go meet some other people doing big things in this company. So I asked my mom, my brother, and my girlfriend, Margaret, like, let's go down to this event in Anaheim and check it out and see what's going on. So I go down to this event with my family. I'm super casual. I'm wearing like a golf polo and shorts and flip-flops, like not business professional or anything like that. And I remember sitting front row, being super eager to learn something about how to build my business. And there was this gentleman who walked on stage, and he had this like really big presence and this energy, kind of like a Tony Robbins type of vibe. And his name was Coach Alex. And basically I was like, whoever this guy is, I've never heard of him before, but we kept making eye contact when he was delivering these really powerful like one-liners and punchlines around the business. And so I kept bumping Margaret, and I'm like, are you seeing this? Like, is this in my head, or is this actually happening? You know what I mean? Like, is he actually looking at me, or do I just think he's looking at me? And she's like, no, I think he's actually looking at you. So I'm like, this is weird. There's like 1,300 people here. And repeatedly, he made this kind of connection with me. So I'm like, there's something going on here in terms of, I got to talk to this person. I got to meet this person. I got to ask him some questions. I just had this like knowingness. So after the first day, I decided that I was going to have him become my coach. And I kept telling myself, you're going to be my coach. You're going to be my coach. You're going to be my coach. You're going to be my coach in my head. So all these things ended up happening where eventually I bump into him in the front. He was leaving. He was driving a black, big body S63, S65 AMG sedan. It was really beautiful. I actually have a very similar car now many years later because I just wanted the same thing. I was like so blown away by it. And we got to talking, and he basically said that he only coaches people that make at least $1 million a year in network marketing. And I was like, okay, well, I know I'm going to be a 7-figure earner in this industry with this company, but I need somebody to coach me to get there. So I felt like it was like an unfair thing for him to say. So I said to him, I make good income, and I'm willing to pay you for your time, whatever your coaching price is for your time. I'm willing to pay you that. Give me an opportunity to become a 7-figure earner with your help. And so he ends up basically liking my confidence and my ambitious, vision for my future, and agrees to have me come on as a coaching client. So that was the beginning of this massive transition where things started to fall into place. I didn't have somebody who can teach me the business. I met this coach at this event. Synchronicity led me to finding him after the event, which is a whole nother detailed story I'll share another time. And then he basically accepted yes. And part of this yes was him inviting me out to his place in California, where we'd spend the weekend together, and then he would basically help me come up with a game plan and a strategy on hitting the goals that I had in the business. So I flew down to see him in August, and we spent a few days together. I spent some time at his house, and what really happened that was so magical is he was able to like extract this deeper sense of purpose and this big vision for my life by asking me all kinds of different questions. And the questions themselves didn't really make too much sense individually, but he was kind of like trying to understand who was Balazs W Kardos. Like, who was this guy? What was he trying to create? Why is he here? And what is the vision that is larger than himself? So after a few days of us hashing this out, he wrote down all these things on his paper, right? And then at the very end, on the last day, we went for lunch in Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills. And he goes, it sounds like this intention that you have is called Global Prosperity Network. And he's like, I feel like it's like $1 billion idea, this $1 billion movement, this vision. And I was like, oh. And when he said global prosperity, it just hit me right in the perfect spot. I'm like, yes, that's what I want to create. I want to change families' lives. I want to impact them in this big way. I want to help them set themselves free, spend more time with their families, have this really powerful vitality and energy and true health and all of these things that I feel like really create our diamond life when all of these areas are optimized and dialed in. And that was what I've always wanted for myself, for my family, but I want to give that and pay it forward to other families. And so network was not the right word. We kind of brainstormed a little bit and we realized it was movement. We're like, yeah, Global Prosperity Movement, GPM. And it just felt like so perfect. I was like, yes, this is like what I can dedicate my entire career, my entire life towards this idea to manifest this vision and get it going. So when I returned back home after this weekend, I changed my entire messaging, how I was talking on social media, how I was talking with people in person and coffee shops and on the phone, and I stopped promoting Enagic directly. I stopped being an infomercial around the features and benefits and the health product and the business and like just very Enagic related stuff. I stopped trying to cram that down people's throats like an infomercial, and rather I started talking about the big vision of what we were going to create many, many years from now, and where we were going and how big it was going to be and how it was going to go all over the world and have this ripple effect. And it was kind of funny because at the time we were only local. I didn't have a team anywhere in the world. And I was talking about it as if it was already real and it was already happening. So every time there'd be like a handful of people in my living room in this city just outside of Vancouver, people would kind of just look around and be like, dude, there's like 5-7 people in your living room. This isn't a global prosperity movement. And I just had so much certainty. I'm like, no, it is. Like, this is the beginning. You guys are on the ground floor. You're the first handful of people that are able to be a part of this if you want. And together, we're going to have this ripple effect and the sparks. The sparks are going to fly from Vancouver and start to travel all over the world. And that's literally how it began. So then I worked with this coach from August until the end of the year, and we decided to do a launch event. So from August until December 5th, it was pre-launch. We were talking about what's coming, what the vision was, and who wanted to get involved first and position themselves and things like this. And then December 5th of 2013, we had an event in Vancouver of about 120 people or so, and that was officially day one. Obviously, August 24th was the actual creation date, but then we delayed the official launch date until December 5th. And we did amazing things. We developed a culture of duplication in an offline setting. So I taught people how to do the cash flow quadrant. I taught people how to do a paper presentation with their leads. I helped people get to 4A before they sort of branched off and started doing their own calls and their own meetings and their own presentations. I was doing live meetings at my house, smaller groups. I was doing them downstairs in the common area. I was doing 2-on-1 calls. I was doing 3-on-1 coffee meetings. I was doing little small events in people's houses. I was traveling around. I was so busy that I was willing to do anything to move my business, to grow my business, to expand my business. As long as someone was willing to listen to the presentation, I was willing to work and provide that. So that was the early days. Now, fast forward to about 15 months after I started, I hit 6A2. I was making about $30,000 per month with a very small little team. And what was interesting is that when I hit 6A, the same coach, so rewind a little bit. I fast tracked to 6A2, rewind to 6A. So I hit 6A in 11 months. And my coach that I hired said, as part of like the finale of our coaching contract, if I hit 6A by the end of January 2014, then he'll fly me to his house just outside of Hollywood, and he's going to have a Super Bowl party. And he wanted to celebrate my achievements and the success we created together during this coaching period. So I was super determined to hit this goal. And January gets started, and I was at 80 sales in my business, 80 points, 80 products. I needed to get to 101, and I had no sales happen at all personally or in my group until January 21st. I was like, the only time since I started my business that I had no sales for 3 weeks. It was kind of strange. And I was being tested. I was being tested to see how resilient I was. Was I going to throw in the towel? Was I going to keep trying? Was I going to step up and make it happen somehow? And I believe that these moments in our journey happens to everybody. A lot of the time it happens at 6A, and then at the higher ranks it happens. You get tested, things don't work out, you have adversity, you have setbacks, you have cancellations, crazy stuff happens. And it's literally a test to see if you have what it takes to earn this next level in your business. So that was my experience of that. So the last 10 days of the month, we did it. It was the final day of the month in January. We put in the order a couple hours after the office closed, and boom, I hit 6A. The next day, I flew to LA, and he says to me, oh, there's an event that's going to be happening. You can speak and share your story. It's going to be cool to see that you're here from Vancouver and blah, blah, blah. So anyways, I went on stage, and there was about 200 something people there in the room. I shared a little bit about my story. And in the front row was a gentleman named Cameron George, who also flew in to meet him. And we connected and we talked, and he was wearing like a baseball cap and like a cutoff shirt and dressed very casually, kind of like a surfer guy or like a guy who likes to go to the beach. I'm wearing like a suit and stuff. And we end up hanging out and talking. And then he says to me, he's like, what kind of systems do you have in place? Do you have a presentation? You have a funnel? Do you have a webinar? Like, he's asking me these questions. I'm like, no, I don't have any of that stuff. I just basically do the presentation myself. I draw it out. You know what I mean? I was like, and I was proud of it. I'm like, I work hard. I do lots of meetings every single day. And finally, he's like, it just sounds like you're working way too hard. And I was so confused because I was always told that I should work harder, not less hard. You know what I mean? So I didn't really understand the concept of leverage or how to create systems to not make myself repeat myself so much, and so on and so on. So that kind of stuck with me. We ended up hanging out, and like 2 years later, I realized that I wanted to go online. I knew that the future of business had more to do with technology and automation and softwares and systems. I knew that that was the direction that I wanted to go, and that the economy was going and just trending and so forth, but I had no idea how to do that. So I started to sign up for all these different types of courses and online programs and funnels and webinars and stuff like this. And I started to understand kind of how it works and why it works, but I still didn't know how to build it or set it up. And after a couple of years, I ended up flying to Costa Rica to hang out with Cameron. We connected, we hung out. And all these little smaller stories happened in between, which we're not going to get into right now. But ultimately, he didn't have the capacity or the time to like work on things with me, but he was trying to help me, guide me in the right direction. So I'm like, okay, I'll just build a sales funnel myself, and I'll put these pages together, and I'll film these videos. And I ended up doing my best to put it together, and I was trying to make it exactly the same as what I did face-to-face, and just put it onto the internet. And while that was a good idea, the way things work online is a little bit different than when you're face to face, right? So I built it exactly like that. I sent it to him. He kind of laughed. He's like, this sucks. It's never going to work. You need to make all these different changes and all these adjustments in order for it to be a success. I was like so frustrated, but I wasn't going to give up. So I'm like, all right, let's do it again. And at this point, he's like, you know what? Like, we just got to help you like do this. But at the time, there was this other thing happening where his other students that he taught how to do online marketing, they were part of another company, and that company wasn't quite working out. So they ended up looking for another business, another opportunity. And I was like, Enagic is the best. It's like the golden goose. It's been around the longest. It's a safe place. You can plant your flag and build something epic. So they agreed, and they ended up coming on board. And it was a combination of a few people, including Cameron, Matthew Jang, Julian Sherman, and then many other leaders that kind of came with that group of online marketers. And this was in 2016. And that's when really things started to evolve, where I was going to build this online system and I didn't know how to do it and I had no experience, but I was going to do it anyways. They already had the experience. And so we ended up collaborating and partnering together. And I remember that we had just such massive success out of the gate. The first month or two, people were hitting 6A, 6A2, breaking all these records. There was an abundance of sales. People were buying the trifecta, which I also created the trifecta strategy after my first year in the business. I realized people were going to buy more than one product anyways, so we started just simply recommending and offering it to them on the first day. So we just started smashing all these records and it blew up. And at the time I was like, they said to me, they're like, why would we build two systems when we can just collaborate on one and everybody can use it inside of your business, starting with your mom, and your mom would be like the top of this organization. So yeah, that's how that all happened. And then that went really well for probably 2 years, 2.5 years or so. And then some issues came up with some compliance problems, some egos, some people wanting to do it their way and different ways. And, you know, things happen. It's basically like growing pains. So the original online platform basically got shut down and it split into all these micro communities and micro platforms. And it was like a similar process, but it went to the UK, it went to Australia, it went to Europe, it went to all these different areas, and people that knew the process, knew how to do it, just decided to rebuild it from scratch, do it their way, and essentially duplicate what they knew worked. And around this period of time for myself, I was actually in a really great position as a leader because I went from a very centralized online system into a decentralized, duplicated systems across the world. And my sales started to blow up. More and more people had success. Everything was contained in these micro communities. So if there was drama or any issues, it didn't actually affect my entire business. It was just kind of like something that had to be worked out in this one smaller community. So there was a lot of positives to it. But what I noticed was that as the years went by, I started to have less and less direct impact or direct influence on my organization. And I want to always be leading by example and provide value and provide leadership and provide training and mindset and strategies and all these types of things. I always want to be able to contribute to the success of GPM across the world. But because everybody was splitting off, it was becoming harder and harder to do that. It was harder and harder for myself to stay in the loop on what people were training, what people were being taught, how they were doing the business. Were they doing it offline, online, water focused, business focused, paid ads, organic? Like there's so many different variables and nuances. And so that kind of leads us to where we are now, literally like almost 10 years later. And a couple of years ago, I realized that I wanted to get back into the leadership seat, not like the only person who does it, but in a way where I could engineer and create the user experience, the training, the tech, the tools, and like bring my ideas and visions to life. And so I decided, even though it makes very little sense from a logical standpoint around my lifestyle, around my freedom and stuff to take on this project that I really don't need to take on, I decided that I wanted to build out a global prosperity movement software that became the system of systems. Now, the difference with this, just to clarify, is that I feel like collaboration amongst top leaders that have communities, that have other systems and so forth, is the best way for all of us to win and all of us to grow, not scattered resources. And the more that I'm looking into this these days, the more I realize that there's way too many scattered resources. Like, what I mean by that is people are spending money on overhead, on software, on tools, and all this kind of stuff in too many places, right? It's like wasted energy, wasted money, wasted time. People are doing these calls to support their teams and their communities on topics where in the same day, there might be 10 calls on the same topic all over the world, where we could technically just be doing one call with 10 times as many people listening and actually have more leadership leverage and collaboration and so on. So I started to see this. And rather than becoming a system where it's one brand and you have to, promote this one thing, my vision was actually to become a system of systems, meaning that these different communities, these different brands, these different leaders with their faces on funnels and the way that they like to do things would actually be able to come in and partner with us in the GPM system of systems idea and continue to do exactly what they've been doing, but actually have more support, more resources, and have everybody sort of in one umbrella, like the way our Facebook group has been acting for many years, but in a whole nother level of features, of benefits, of tools, of ways of supporting others, and so on. So that's basically what I set out to create a couple years ago. Got the process rolling, had the initial vision, but one thing about myself is that if the timing isn't right, I don't force it. And if I don't feel like I have all the pieces of the vision, then it's hard for me to launch it or get going with it. So in the last about 8 months or so, those final couple pieces of the vision that I was looking for and kind of waiting for to come together, they came together. And so now it's finally time for us to roll things out as like a phase 1. And we're basically going to be opening up the doors to phase 1, which is our custom branded app community for Global Prosperity Movement. That's going to have some it's going to have some different spaces with different types of access and knowledge and training and community and support, like really, really next level stuff. And certain spaces will actually be free of charge to anybody who's a part of Global Prosperity Movement. And it's kind of going to replace the Facebook group. We're not going to close the Facebook group or anything like that. But in terms of new content, training calls, community calls, resources, documents, scripts, so on and so on, like all this kind of stuff, we're going to be migrating everything over there because it's much more organized, easier to find stuff, and it's also going to be set up for the entire world. So we're going to have every major country, the paperwork, the training, the comp plan, the commissions, like all those things super organized. So if you are someone who's looking to build and expand their business globally, you won't have to go in the Facebook group and be like asking questions like, how do I fill out the form, or how's this commission, or how's that? All of that is already going to be built out for everybody. So we're almost ready to invite you and the wider community into this, and we will be initially rolling out the knowledge and information and the invitation links to 6As and above, giving them a chance to come in first and, really just give you guys the respect that you deserve for all the contributions that you've made to the success of GPM with your leadership and your sales and all the energy that you invest into your teams. We want to give you first dibs to come into the community and check it out. We have some really cool ways of rewarding your success with lots of praise and recognition and ways of communication as well. We'll be able to do very direct communication with different levels. So if you're a 6A, we'll be able to communicate to only 6As and so on, like just next level in terms of building a community and being able to reach each other and stay organized. I just can't wait to show it to you guys. It's super exciting. The branding is sexy. The app is sexy. The features are sexy. Everything is just super, super next level. And yeah, so it's taken a long time to get here, right? We've been a part of Enagic as a customer since May of 2008. I started building the business in March of 2013, and we've been building things online since 2017. So 2016, 2017, and all of these systems and all of these platforms and all of these communities have duplicated and expanded and done incredible things. And I'm so proud of all of you guys who've taken that initiative and basically solved your own problems of like, we don't have this, so let's go build it. Like, we don't have that, let's go create it. I think that's really, really amazing. And I take my hat off to you, like massive round of applause. And if you want to collaborate in this way that I think is going to level us all up into the diamond decade with creating massive momentum, then I think that there's an opportunity for us to lock arms where you get to keep your brand, you get to keep your community, you get to keep everything that you're doing, but we end up doing it more in a close proximity, collaboration, and partnership. So we pool our resources together. We actually strategically share knowledge that is working for different people and then give that back to the wider community so everybody can rise. And, you know, there's a saying that rising tides raises all ships. So if you're literally thinking about Enagic as a company as the wide open ocean and we can raise the tides for everybody, then we will actually have more success as a company, and it will allow all of our businesses to prosper and grow even bigger than it is today. So I'm just so excited, guys, that, you know, if you don't already know this about me, I'm always thinking about how do we get better? How do we improve? How do we innovate? How do we disrupt? How do we think contrarianly, which basically means the opposite of other people? How do we break through limitations? How do we scale? How do we improve? How do we give better training? How do we give people better results? This is literally what's on my mind most of the time. And as we got closer and closer to this end of the summer now, it's the last week of August in 2024 at the time of this recording, I was like, man, we got to do this now. My son is going to be born middle of October. And at the very least, I wanted to roll out phase 1, which is our custom community. And then we're not exactly sure, but pretty soon we'll have the dates and the announcements for when we're launching phase 2 and phase 3. And then by the beginning of 2025, all things should be live and crushing, and we'll be ready to really take things to a whole new level across GPM in 2025. So I'm beyond excited. This is going to be super cool. Keep an eye out for the episode that is going to come out next week on September 5th, which is 9.5 day. And that's the day that we're going to be officially rolling out the invitation link to the wider community. And then what we're going to be doing is it's going to be first come, first serve with a wait list, and we'll be letting people in phases. So you'll get the link, you'll request to join, you'll have some questions to answer, and then we'll be letting in like a certain number of people every few days to make sure that we don't overload our community. And then as people get their stuff set up and the initial getting started training and a few steps in place, then we'll like let the next group in and let the next group in. So whenever you get the link, make sure that you're very quick to click the link, request to join, fill out the questions, because everything is time-stamped and we will be letting people in based on timestamps. And the only people that are going to be getting in first are going to be the top leaders and anybody who's in my private mentorship programs. Those are going to get sort of like a VIP access pass early, and then everybody else will be first come, first serve based on when they request to join the custom brand new GPM app. So I'm so pumped. The team is pumped. I'm so grateful that I'm working with the best people that are helping me bring this vision and idea to life. And I know a lot of you have been waiting for a long time, some of you for a couple of years, some of you since the beginning of 2024. And I just wanted to share a little bit about the history of GPM. And we're going to include this podcast episode inside of our private community so that future people that are joining could watch this episode to kind of get a little bit of a backstory. And we're also going to put together a timeline underneath this video with kind of like more of a summarized short form little paragraphs of like what happened in which year, because sometimes I forget some of the details as I try to just free flow what happened, but it's hard to always remember every single little detail over the course of like 16 years. So I'm sure I missed a couple pretty big important things on this episode, but I just want to remind you that if your vision right now for your life seems out of reach, it seems hard, or like you're not sure if you can create it, you have to remember that most people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year and drastically underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years, because we just simply can't see all of the moving pieces that are going to fall into place over the course of a decade. So my suggestion to you is to expand your vision to include other people's visions. That's one of the smartest things that I feel that I did with Global Prosperity Movement, is that I elevated the vision so much higher than the frequency of competition, because the frequency of competition is low vibration, right? It's I'm better than you, it's you against me, blah, blah, blah. I ain't got time for that. So my vision for Global Prosperity Movement was so high on the frequency of love, of connection, of making the world a better place, that when I run into other thought leaders, other marketers, other influencers, other successful entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call them, every time we have the conversation, if we're in the same alignment around our impact and what we're trying to help people create with their lives in different ways, I always feel like it's a great partnership and opportunity to collaborate, because my vision is inclusive. It's like, okay, I'm not sitting here being like, no, I got to do it my way and you got to do it your way. And we're kind of in this weird frequency of competing to help people. Doesn't really make sense. So my point of view is, let's do it together. Let's lock arms and actually help people with this, because water is a universal truth and water is necessary for life, and so is freedom and abundance. So we're actually helping people with massive parts of having an optimized, successful life, in my opinion. So there's no need to be mine's better than yours, or we can't do both. So anyway, where I was going with that is, we are now at this new era of leveling up again, disrupting how we do things again, growing faster and scaling faster than ever before again. And it's just time for that. And I'm so excited for the opportunity to share this with you. I know that this is needed. I've already shared it with a handful of people and kind of gave them a little sneak peek, and every single person who has seen it has been mind blown at what it is, how we set it up, the functionality, and every single one of them said it's going to be a game changer. So I'm sure you will feel the same way when we give you access and you see it soon. And there'll be more details to come. So much love to you. Stay tuned for that announcement on the next podcast episode coming out on September 5th. And also keep your eyes on your email and the Facebook group as we reveal more information in the coming days. And then we'll be basically giving everybody access starting on the 5th of September and rolling it out throughout the month of September in smaller groups, depending on how it goes. If it goes really well, we'll let people in quicker. If we need to slow things down for whatever reason, we'll do that as well. But as long as you have the request and the timestamp and you're in the queue to be let in, then you'll get access in that exact order. All right, my friends, much love to you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. Make sure that you check it out on YouTube, subscribe on the YouTube channel as well. And if you want to leave feedback on any of the episodes, or some thoughts, or like a quick little testimonial or a golden nugget that you learned or something like this, then the best place to do that is in the comments section on the YouTube episode. That's the easiest place for my team to see that. All right. And we'll see you again in next week's episode. And I can't wait to launch our brand new GPM custom community. All right. Have a good day. Bye-bye.